The next day he comes into the shop. So I went out in the front office and he said, very simply, I am coming over tonight. I have a proposal for you. And he walked in and had a map in his hand and he offered me $50,000 to fund me for a fish store. And he gave me a week to make a decision. There was ice in the boxes and these discus fish were below the ice. We dripped them with hot water for 8 hours. All but one made it and I couldn't believe it.
Welcome back to Tales of Fluff. I'm AJ.
And I'm Emily. Today, we're taking a dive, literally, into the world of exotic fish, reef tanks, in a business that's been blowing people away for nearly 4 decades.
We're talking about the Fish Factory, a tropical fish store located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that's been family owned and customer loved since 1986.
We talked to the president and CEO of the Fish Factory, Steven. His store was voted top 3 aquarium shop in the country, Milwaukee's best finalists, People's Choice Milwaukee magazine, and top Yelp company. Needless to say, he knows what he's doing when it comes to fish. And it didn't start with a big plan. It started with one man's love of raising fish in his garage and a surprise knock on the door that changed everything.
His interview was incredible, fun, and super interesting. We started by asking, how did it all begin?
The Fish Factory will be celebrating its 40th anniversary in September 13th. We opened September 13th, 1986. And the story is very unique. I am the owner and I built it, designed it, and I always raised tropical fish locally. I would raise angelfish, catfish, and things. I raised over 1 million fish and peddled those locally. I was a journeyman printer, so that was my main job. And then I'd come home in the late night and pull eggs and raise brine shrimp and feed the babies. And then I'd peddle these. Well, I realized that these places I was taking these two were just, the stores were not clean. They were not kept. There was no style to them. The owners were sitting behind the counter with a soda and a bag of chips. And, could care less if I was there. And I thought to myself, one day it would be nice to maybe do a really nice store. But my main job was be a journeyman printer. So I had a 800 square foot house, married, and a brand new baby of 9 months. So there was no making any changes at that point. And to cut to the chase quickly, as that printing job, I printed a price list for a gentleman that was the largest seashell dealer in the country and happened to reside in Wisconsin. Well, we had a delivery guy, pressman. We had a delivery guy that was supposed to deliver his, at that time, there was no internet. It was mail order. So we printed his mail order list once a month with his seashells, and he would package them up and sell them. Well, they came to the press and said, Steve, can you shut the press down? I need you to make a delivery. And I loved it because I was working in the press room from sun up to sundown, and to get out in the van and get outside was great. So I got in the van and took this package about 4 or 5 miles down the road and knocked on the door, and this gentleman answered, and I gave him the package. He says, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm the pressman, but our guy's sick." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Did you want to come in and see my basement?" And I said, "Sure." So I walked in and looked at his basement. He had a lot of things that is now in the Smithsonian, one-offs, the world's largest seed and sharks and pickle jars and interesting stuff. Long story short, he had 4 aquariums down there with goldfish, which was his love. And one of the filters was making noise. Well, my experience in filters and aquariums was extensive. So as we're talking, I literally said, "Do you want me to fix that for you? It's kind of loud." And he's like, "You can fix that?" And I says, "Oh yeah, in a minute." And he said, "I've been trying to get that fixed for a year." So I fixed the filter for him. We ended our conversation and I left. The next day he comes into the shop and the boss comes up and he says, "I need you to shut your press down. Did everything go okay with the delivery yesterday?" And I said, "Sure, it was great." And he's like, "Well, he's here to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh." So I went out in the front office and he said, very simply, "I am coming over tonight. Call your wife and you don't have to make any food. And I have a proposal for you." It's that simple. I called my wife. I said, "Some guy's coming over." She said, "Who is it?" I go, "The guy I met yesterday." She goes, "What does he want?" I go, "I don't know." And he walked in and had a map in his hand and he offered me $50,000 to fund me for a fish store. And he gave me a week to make a decision. And that's how I got started. And it really, yeah. And I had to quit my job and that was funny. But yeah, it wasn't really my love. It wasn't something that I thought, but I thought, well, I've got a trade in me and I know the business of fish, but I don't know anything about customers I knew customers, but I didn't know anything about part of running that type of business, the retail and brick and mortar. And so, yeah, so that's how I got started.
What I like about this story is how unexpected it was. One moment, Steven's delivering a package, the next, he's being offered 50,000 to start a fish store.
Yeah, and he didn't just jump into it blindly. He already had that passion. He'd raised fish already, but he still had doubts about running a storefront.
And yet here we are, almost 40 years later. That basement detour turned into something incredible.
So we asked him about first impressions. What do people think when they walk in?
It happens every day. We can tell people that have not been, being there as long as we have, we kind of became a destination at this point. It's kind of a place you go to. The average customer spends about 28 minutes in our store, and there's a lot to see. And we designed that perfectly. So it's not just a shop for fish or supplies. It's we kind of entice you through areas, and there's a lot to see. And we have a lot of fish that you don't see anywhere in the country. We have the only ones or two, so that's what we're known for. So when people walk in for the first time, they literally stand at the door and they look left and they look right. And they're like, because the outside's very minimalistic, and we did that purposely. So when you come in, it's beautiful. It's a 5-star facility, and it's just a shock. And we look at them and we say, "You've never been there before, huh?" And they're like, "No." And they're like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." So that it's not just that display, but it's pretty much an ongoing thing that we see from customers that have never been in there for ever, for the first time reaction. It's got a good feel and a good vibe to it, great music playing. And the staff is generally, really happy. They're happy to see the customers and they really care. And I know it's a cliche, but you feel it when you're there. You just feel it. And it's a great place to go. And the experience is always the same, which is what I designed. We want that experience to be the same. Just like when you go to McDonald's, every cheeseburger tastes the same, no matter where you go. Kind of the idea.
They kept the outside simple. So when you walk in, it's like, whoa, a full experience, which is pretty cool. I think most people think you need to make the outside flashy, but what they did is almost like a hidden gem.
Yeah, and he said that it happens every day. People just stop and stare. And that kind of impact, that doesn't happen by accident.
Absolutely not. It's more than just about selling fish. It's about creating a place where people want to stay.
Next, we talked a little more about the store and the remodels that recently happened there.
I think the amazing part was the magnitude of it. When we do remodels, they're substantial. They're literally full rooms, anywhere from 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet usually. And they're completely different than they were before, keeping the customers interested. But when that reef display opened and we unveiled it, we had a Caribbean kind of a theme, but then we kind of went off the deep end there into the little, Fuji type of island theme, and not the traditional, what you would think like you'd see down in Florida or something like a tiki hut thing, but just more of a real, like we made even the floor a sand colored. And I actually had the idea of bringing in real sand, which we found out was a bad idea for a health department. But anyway, so those are the types of displays where when you're immersed into that room, I wanted to take you away from whatever your problems were and whatever your thoughts were and just totally bring you into a different environment. And that's kind of what we do. And when people come in, I do believe that they really feel like they are in a destination place and they're happy. People are smiling, and some are buyers and some are just lookers. There's many people that come in and say, they walk right in and say, "We don't even have a fish tank. We just heard about this place. Can we look around?" We're like, "Yeah, go ahead." So yeah, so I think that reef was very impressive, and it's still there. And we get stingrays and stuff like that. And the kids, we do tours and the kids love that stuff. Yeah.
What stood out to me is how intentional everything is, from the layout to the sand colored floors. And even though he didn't, he wanted to bring real sand in at one point just to make the experience that much better.
Yeah, it was funny, but it makes sense. Steven designed it to be an escape, a little island from everyday life. You walk in stressed and leave smiling.
Which made us wonder, when did he first realize the impact something as simple as clean water could have on people?
The biggest knock that I had before I opened the store was, we have a saying in the store and it's called 5-star. Very first day you work there, you learn the word 5-star. And what that means is every tank needs to look like you mentioned. And because a lot of people have dirty tanks at home. Well, I don't want to go to a place and see a dirty tank. I want it to be beautiful. And our store, the number one comment is not only on the staff, but if you do research on us, you'll see that the displays are sparkling. They're beautiful. They're full of teeming worth of fish, not just 2 fish in a tank. There's hundreds in every tank. Every tank's different. We have different types of lighting. So I think that my number one goal is, and it was when I first opened, is to have a clean store with healthy stock. And, it sounds simple. It's a lot of work to do it. We probably spend 40 to 60 hours a week just doing that, just cleaning and maintaining. And all my systems are automated. So, we don't have to do it manually, but just to keep the things the way we want to keep them, rotating stock, rotating plants, we're cleaning lights. It's great. And people love it. And we're very proud of it. It's kind of our brand.
It was amazing to hear how they spend 40 to 60 hours a week just cleaning and maintaining the tanks. I think that takes real dedication and passion in what you do. And it shows. I mean, 40 years later, they make such a huge impact on people just because they make sure that time and effort is put into each and every tank that they have in their care. So, the next thing we ended up talking a little bit about is what he expects of his staff. And out of 190 to 200 tanks, he says he might accept a 3 or 4 star, but never a 1 star.
It's amazing. You walk on the floor as a new employee. As soon as you clock in, the first thing we do is we spend the whole day with you. And then I always tell the staff, I'm like, hey guys, 5 star is a great motto to have, but I understand, there's 190 to 200 tanks here. And to keep them all at 5 star, I said, we'll accept a 3 and 4 star. We just won't accept a 1 star. And so their mentality is, they know what we're looking for. And I have a unique talent to walk into that location, and I never feel like I'm an owner. In fact, for years, I didn't even have my name on a business card because it's not important to me. And I had a vision and I wanted to convey that vision. And the hardest part is to keep that vision and reinventing. And I walk in there and they'll have a beautiful store full of people, and I'll find a piece of paper on the floor and I'll go berserk. So, they're like, how did you see that? I'm like, and that's the difference. I look at the store like a customer, and I feel that's the key. A lot of businesses worry about the register. I never worry about the register. They worry about competition. I never worry about competition. It's great to have and it keeps you on your toes, but we're so busy making our brand and keeping what we have to keep. I don't have time to worry if the drawer is going to have enough to pay for the bills. And I don't know if you do things right and you work hard. I mean, it'll just be there. And it's true. It's 40 years of truth.
The whole 5 star mentality, it's not just about fish. It's about how people feel when they walk in.
And you can tell it matters. The tanks sparkle, the staff cares, and it all comes from Steven seeing the shop through a customer's eyes.
Honestly, that alone right there is great business advice. But we kept digging. How does he keep fish healthy, especially when they're coming from 29 different countries?
So it's very important. We are unique. We ship all our fish from all over the world, 29 different countries. So most stores buy from a local wholesaler in Chicago, maybe in California, where they ship the fish in on Sunday night. Fish arrive on Monday. They open them up. They put them in their holding tanks. Tuesday morning, they bag them up and they ship them to the store. Tuesday afternoon, you walk in the store, you buy that same fish, and Wednesday, that fish is dead. That doesn't work for us. So I just think and stores do it. And you mentioned Walmart and some of the other big box stores. Unfortunately, they do that. And a lot of the Walmart stores have gotten away from fish because the losses are so phenomenal that they just can't have it anymore. So the trick is to ship your fish, control buy the better steak, right? So you get a better fish, buy a better fish. Can be bought in grades. People don't realize that. And every country is known for something special. Guppies come from a different area, especially they can come from 9 areas. The best area is Sri Lanka. So when Sri Lanka has guppies, that's where we go. And so it's kind of buy the best steak and then get the best steak and have a nice grill and make sure you got a good seasoning. So we do all the things right. And then we hold our fish. So we do all our medicines are organic. We don't use any harsh medicines. We hold our fish in holding for 5 days. And then only after they pass a 7-point inspection, then we release them to the customers. So that is important because a lot of fish are very healthy when they come in, but they get stressed by ship. And it'd be kind of like if you go outside in the winter and your mom yelled at you to put your coat on and you ran out to your car, right? You could do that 10 times and we've all done it and you're fine. But there's that one time you do it and mom was right. Next day you're sick. So it's kind of how it works with fish. They come in, they look great for 24, 48 hours. And then 3 days later is when they start feeling the effect of the shipping, which causes the slime coat at the fin, which is why they get sick. So a lot of the places that, and unfortunately, we spend a lot of time on the backside before you even see the fish. And that's a lot of work and a lot of extra labor, a lot of cost. But, when you sit down and eat the steak or your fish live for years, that's the idea,
The fact they quarantine every fish and use only organic treatments shows how much they care about the fish and the families taking the fish home. It's like fish rehab before they're even for sale.
And it works. Customers end up with healthier fish that actually live. This also shows value to fish as pets. They too become people's families, and people want their pets living a healthy, happy life. And Stephen makes sure of this by giving the fish the best possible start.
Exactly. Now, Stephen obviously owns a fish store, as we've been talking about, but he also does tank moving for people. And with this, we read that he once moved 4 tanks without losing a single fish. So we had to ask him, what was he thinking during that intense process?
Well, that's a unique business. We do as well. We do moving tanks. Yeah. I remember that day. And there's other days that we actually dropped the tank. So there are times because people call us when they don't want to do it. Right. So we know we're already walking into something. Right. Maybe they're on the 29th floor of a hotel downtown. Right. Or they can't get it through the doorway and they know that we got to modify it. So yeah, when you're moving tanks, it's very nervous. And even to this day, I even told my son, who's going to be the next owner, I said, I'm still nervous every day. He said, Dad, you're still nervous after all these years? I said, yeah, every day I go to work, I'm nervous. And he says, why? He said, because that keeps you on edge. It's because you never know. It's the minute you get comfortable and complacent is the minute that you're going to break that tank, right? So yeah, we move those. It's very difficult when somebody employs you to do that because some of those fish could be thousands of dollars and you have to know what you're doing and you have to, transport the water, of course, and you have to have a limited time that you're on the road and you have to have the right bins with the aeration. And then you got to clean the tanks and you got to, some of them are hard plumbed. You got to cut them all out. It's kind of like cutting out something out of your wall and then removing it and then putting it back in. So they're very stressful. We don't like to do it a lot. We do it for great customers that we know, but we turned a little bit of that because it's very, very hard. And I remember when we're moving those, that's what goes through my mind. It's like, don't drop it, because we're responsible. We have to replace it.
Yeah, just you telling me that, it makes me nervous.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that show Tanked on TV?
Yes, yes.
Did you ever see that? I forgot I know them all. I can't think of the large dude. Um, I've actually met him many, many times and sat down with him. If they employ us to do some work for them in the Midwest, we did a 800-gallon tank in Wausau. They'll fly their guys in and then they fly the tank up to wherever. And then they employ my staff to go up there. But yeah, that guy, you ever watch that show? He's always like, careful, don't drop it. And it gets stressful. I mean, some of these tanks can be thousands and, $30,000 tanks, and installs you got to be clear headed. You've been well rested. Yeah. It's not as easy. That's why a lot of places don't do it, but we still do it.
What he said about moving tanks makes sense because when you're moving something that's worth $30,000, give or take, that's a lot of pressure to be put under. But it's awesome to hear that he still does it for great customers of his. And speaking of intense moments, there was one fish shipment that literally came in with ice on top, and somehow they survived.
I got one, I'll tell you, but every shipment's scary. I mean, because it just is. I mean, you never know. I always tell the staff, it's like Christmas. One Christmas you get socks, right? And the next Christmas you open up and you get, you have a bite. But what I mean by that is sometimes you're buying fish from all over the world and they're thousands and thousands of miles away. And you're buying them off a spreadsheet. So there's no pictures. There's just centimeter sizes. And you got to trust the vendors and know the area. And that comes with experience. But, once the fish are here, it's like a piece of fruit. You can't just throw it out. You got to sell it. So we have to really be cautious of that. And then remember, we shipped a fish called the discus, which we sell a lot of. And they're a warm water fish from South America originally, but a lot of them now are raised overseas. And so they're more of a tank raised fish, but they still, just because you're German doesn't mean you came from Germany, right? So they raise these fish and we shipped the shipment in winter and the airlines lost it, which is frequent. And the next day I was called to pick this fish up. Well, there was ice in the boxes. It was so cold that the boxes had ice on top. And these discus fish were below the ice. And honest to God, all but one made it. And I couldn't believe it. They were lethargic. They were shut down because they went into latka like a fish does in a pond here in Wisconsin. We dripped them with hot water for 8 hours and they bounced back. So never forget. So that was a crazy story. And discus are considered delicate, if you would. So that was an interesting one. But we've had many times where, till today, there's not a lot of fish I can eat. Because of the smell, because I've been through so much. You have a box from Sri Lanka that's been on the plane for 3 days and then a 90-degree heat for 2, and you got to unpack it, take a picture of it for proof of credit. Not a good smell. I have a hard time sometimes eating fish on the road.
That was definitely an intense experience. Having a warmer fish come in with ice over top of it, like that's crazy.
It was nuts. Open the box and it's like, it wasn't thick, but it was a thin layer of ice, crazy.
That story blew my mind. A warm water fish in freezing temperatures, and all but one survived, due to Stephen taking the best care of them.
And it just shows this isn't just a business to him. He fights for every fish like it's his first.
But you know what? Not every situation has a happy ending. Sometimes he has to tell people that their dream fish is not going to work in their tank.
Yes, and that's a frequent thing. That's a great question. We have people that just come in and they're affluent and they just want what they want. And we hold our ground and we tell people, hey, that, they're like, I'll take this and this and this. And we're like, well, that's probably not going to do well. And they'll be like, well, I don't care. And we're like, well, we kind of do. And, so those are tougher to deal with sometimes. But the general public follows us really good. And we have a great rep for just obviously doing this particular job. And when we tell people, they're like, I'll take this and this. And we're like, and they kind of, they come in with the family and they're all there on a Saturday after a soccer game. And, it's Jimmy's birthday, right? And he's going to get some 10 fish in his new tank. And we find out that the tank was set up 3 hours ago. And we're like, you can't do that. And, so that's tough. That's tough on the kids. The parents are cool. We're lucky. 90% of our customers are so nice. They're so cool and happy and great. And we have a very strong love for them and they support local business. And we don't forget that, but we return it with great service. And again, we don't care about the register. We just want them to do well. And so, it's hard to see the kids send them home with nothing. So I incorporated, I got some fake rubber fish that I give to the kids. I tell them to put it in their tank so they can look at something overnight and then return the next day or so. And we start building the tank because that's the success. That's the future of the business. And aquarium keeping is not about just setting up a tank with water and putting a filter and plugging it in. It's an ecosystem and you got to think of it like a garden. So you don't go outside and rototill your garden and put tomato seeds and come out the next day and look for tomatoes. It just doesn't work. So it's kind of like that, where it takes a while for the Nitrosamora and Nitrobacter bacteria to grow on your filter media. And then that's what breaks down the fish waste. So the filter itself is a piece of plastic and a motor. It doesn't do anything. It's just a vehicle to hold the media that grows, or the soil, if you would, that grows the seeds. And the seeds grow into plants and the plants break down. And that's a metaphor, of course, the bacteria breaks down your harmful organics. So that's the hardest part, is turning the kids away, because they're so excited when they come in there and they're bouncing around. We have stools and you can tell when there's a crowd of kids because you can hear the stools. We have a concrete floor that's painted like the ocean. And so they take these plastic and they stack them up and they're moving them around and they're sliding them around. And I could be in other rooms going, we must have a bunch of kids in the store, today. And so, yeah, it's very cool to see. I love it. I'm a big kid guy, so it's great for me. I love to see the families and the kids.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still laughing over the rubber fish. How you send them, but you know what?
Yeah,
the little details.
Yeah, they're crying in the car, and I feel bad for the parents. They give me the look like, "Can't you give me anything?" And, that commercial you see on TV where the guy tries to replace the goldfish that's the same color. We get that probably once a week, where they run in while the kids at school. They take a picture of the fish that is dead in the bowl. They want us to replace it as close as we can before the kid gets home. That we see quite often.
Man. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, but no, I really appreciate that though, because it's the little details that the kids remember and the parents remember. And that's
Right.
like the best kind of advertising that you can do.
It
Word of
is,
mouth.
yeah, it is. And unfortunately, 20% of our business to 25 is remakes, which means like they were sold, they're already on a downslide. They get an aquarium, they fill it up with water, they were sold fish the same day, right? And then they dead. By the next morning, they're dead. The kid's crying, mom's upset, money's invested. And then it's just a rounding pattern because they're started off wrong. And so then we get them if we didn't get them originally, and then we got to unwind them. And it's hard. It's very difficult. They're like, well, why didn't they tell me? Why, we don't talk about those stories. We don't care. Again, I told you, we don't care what happens outside our brick building. We just go, hey, I'm sorry that happened, but here's what we need to do. If you work with us, I'll guarantee that we even got it all printed on our bags in deep, how to acclimate your fish in 2 different ways. And we give free water sample bottles. I always say, hey, come on in 24/7, free. And we'll test your water at any time. And we like you to do it before you buy the fish, because if you come in with a dead fish and the water fails, we didn't know that. So let's find out before. So we do about, oh boy, 400 or 500 tests a week for free.
I like how he handles it, especially with kids. The fact that he hands out rubber fish so that they don't go home heartbroken, that's just next level thoughtfulness.
Yeah, I like that too. Kids get so excited for new pets, and to be told to wait, that must be so disappointing to them. But Steven makes sure they don't go home empty handed.
And that care keeps going. The stories he shared about his customers really showed how much they love and respect what he's built.
Our customers, my son just, I'll give an example. My son just had his first baby boy. And he came into the store probably 2 weeks after my grandson was born. There must have been 30 gifts on the desk for him. And they're all from customers. And it's crazy. I had a customer, first time customer, about a month or two ago. I was in the shop in the morning and he came in and he was having a problem with his filter. First time, never been in there, brought it in, didn't buy it from us. I'm like, let's take a look at it. I took a look at it, played around with it, tested it in the store, fixed it. And he didn't have to buy anything. He's like, what do I owe you? I go, no, you're good. Just, appreciate you stopping in and you need some fish. Come on, see us, He went home and he came, we were talking about coin collecting. My dad was a coin collector. My dad passed. And so we were just talking. He's like, oh, I'm big in the coins. And he's talking about silver coins and stuff. And I'm not that big into it, but we had a small conversation about it. He goes home and like an hour later, he comes back in the store. And I said to him, is everything okay with that filter? He goes, no. He goes, you were so nice to me that I want to give you this silver coin. So he gave me this silver eagle coin in a case. It's worth like, I don't know, $50, he said, or $75. And he says, I just want you to keep this and remember that, it didn't go unnoticed that what you did. And it was, to me, I still remember that. And I've been there 40 years. So there's a lot of them, so that tells you you're doing something right. So those are kind of cool news stories anyway.
30 gifts for his newborn grandson, a customer giving him silver coins out of pure gratitude. That's not just loyalty, that's community.
And it's a reminder that even in a digital world, brick and mortar still matter when it comes with heart.
So before we wrap things up, we asked him, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do what he does?
Well, I give seminars and talks about retail and brick and mortar and customer service. And I think it never gets old to tell people to really, a lot of people have a dream and they're like, I'd love to have a fish store, or I'd love to crochet, or I'd love to have a wine store, whatever your love is. I agree with that, but that's the start. I think you start a business that's something you at least enjoy, right? And so if you start a business that you don't know anything about, I think that's difficult. But I really found that my success in 40 years of being there, which is remarkable for a fish store, there's only 7% in the country are strictly fish stores. Most are pet stores. So we're a very small group. And to make it that long in the hobby means you're doing something right. And my best advice to really anybody that opens a business or does anything with the public is really do it from your heart. Like the example I just gave you, possibly with the gentleman with the filter. I could have said it's $25 for me to look at it, and he would have paid it. So I think if you like to do, I think you got to have a soft spot. Being in the pet business and dealing with even dogs and cats and reptiles and fish, I think you have to have a soft spot if you're a dog lover or cat lover. And I think you need to bring that into your business. And I really think that you need to think of the customer and put your side. My best advice, and it really easy, put yourself on the other side of the register every day. Look around your shop, look around your business, look around your whatever you're doing, and feel what the customer's feeling. And if you can harness that thought and not focus on what's important to you, but what's important to them, honest to God, that's really what I do. All my ideas come from customers. All my thoughts come from thinking by, why, customer comes in and I feel like, hey, I don't want to see that piece of gum on the floor. And neither does a customer. I don't want to see dirty tanks, and neither does a customer. So could I cut my staff? Could I save money by making my tanks probably a lesser cleaner than they are? Sure. With the general public, no, I don't think so. They're used to seeing tanks that are kind of dirty. But every time somebody gives us a compliment that says, this store is the most beautiful store I've ever been, that's like you spent $1 million for me. And so that's true. That my heart jumps when you say a comment like that versus you buy something. And so that's my message to anybody that owns a business or wants to do anything in an entrepreneurial is do it for the right reasons. and enjoy it. I mean, enjoy it. Do it for I haven't got a check with anybody else's name on the bottom in 40 years. That's pretty cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Enjoy it, and that's my best advice, is to stay focused and work hard. I mean, it's a lot of work,
What he said makes sense. It's not just about loving fish. It's about putting yourself in the customer's shoes every single day.
Yeah, and he's proof that you don't need to chase money. Just focus on doing something well and doing it with heart.
So whether you're a fish person or not, there's a lot to take away from this one.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you to Stephen and the whole Fish Factory team for letting us peek behind the tanks and hear what really goes into creating a place like this.
If you want to see the store in person or just scroll through their beautiful tanks and fish, we'll leave the link in the description below.
And if you enjoyed this episode, don't worry about the likes or follows. Just take a moment today to appreciate the places that still put care first.
Until next time, remember, even a fish store can teach you something about patience, trust, and building something beautiful from the ground up.